If you've ever felt a spiritual unease that you couldn't quite name, you're not alone. There's a growing movement of awakened souls questioning the structures they've been taught to trust. But this isn't about rejecting faith, it's about reclaiming it. Welcome to Soul's Path. Today we're exploring a profound spiritual phenomenon, why so many spiritually conscious individuals are finding their true connection to the divine outside the walls of institutional religion. This isn't a conversation about abandoning belief. It's about understanding how authentic spirituality operates on a frequency that transcends human-made structures. Before we dive deeper, I want to invite you into our community. If this conversation speaks to your soul, subscribe to Soul's Path and turn on notifications so you never miss an exploration that matters to your spiritual journey. Your presence here is part of something meaningful. Your thoughts matter too, and I genuinely love to hear them. In the comments below, share. Have you experienced this spiritual unease? What does authentic spirituality mean to you? Your story might be the awakening someone else needs to hear. And if someone in your life is questioning their spiritual path, going through their own awakening, send this their way. You might be the catalyst they've been waiting for. Now let's begin. The soul recognizes what the mind cannot always explain. There's something unique about spiritual sensitivity. It's not a personality trait or a matter of being overly critical. It's an energetic awareness, a capacity to sense when something contradicts the essence of divine truth. Those who possess this awareness often experience discomfort in environments that claim to serve the sacred, yet operate through fear, hierarchy, or material obsession. This discomfort isn't a personal failure. It's actually evidence of spiritual evolution. Your soul is communicating something essential. There's a mismatch between what's being taught and what divine love actually looks like in practice. Think about how you feel when someone claims to serve you while their actions betray their words. That cognitive dissonance, multiply it spiritually. That's what many sensitive souls experience in religious institutions that preach sacrifice while accumulating wealth, that speak of equality while establishing strict power hierarchies, that promise spiritual growth while creating dependency on authority figures. Consider a moment when you walked into a place of worship and instead of feeling lifted, you felt heavier. Maybe the energy felt off. Maybe the words being spoken didn't match the intentions you sensed beneath them. Perhaps you noticed the contradiction between the spiritual message and the way people were actually treated, how some were elevated while others were dismissed, how finances were handled with secrecy, how questioning was discouraged. These observations aren't paranoia, they're perception. And the more spiritually aware you become, the more acute this perception grows. The question becomes, is this feeling telling me something true, or am I just being judgmental? The answer lies in understanding that spiritual discernment isn't judgment. Discernment is clarity. It's your inner being recognizing authentic alignment versus performance. Judgment comes from ego wanting to be superior. Discernment comes from your soul recognizing truth. If you've experienced this contradiction yourself, the comments section below is a safe space. Many in this community have walked this exact journey, and your honesty might be the mirror another soul needs right now. When institutions become obstacles instead of bridges, for centuries, religious institutions were designed with a purpose: to create spaces where people could collectively seek the divine. This concept isn't inherently flawed. The problem emerges when the institution becomes more important than the purpose it was meant to serve. Think of it this way. The finger pointing at the moon isn't the moon. Religious structures are meant to point toward the divine, not to become the destination themselves. Yet modern religious institutions often operate as if they are the destination, as if God can only be accessed through their specific pathways. Modern religious structures often operate as gatekeepers. They suggest that God can only be accessed through specific rituals, specific people, or specific financial transactions. This creates a dependency model where spiritual authority becomes concentrated in human hands rather than democratized through direct relationship with the Creator. Consider the practical implications. You're taught that your prayers need to be validated by ordained officials. Your spiritual questions need answers approved by institutional doctrine. Your relationship with the divine becomes mediated, filtered, and controlled. You're told that without this institution, you're spiritually incomplete, lost, or at risk of damnation. This creates a system of control, disguised as care. And it works precisely because it wraps itself in the language of love and salvation. For awakened souls, this presents an irreconcilable problem. You begin to recognize that the greatest spiritual teachers throughout history, including those whose teachings form the foundation of these institutions, consistently pointed toward direct, unmediated access to the divine. Yet the institutions built in their names do the opposite. Jesus spoke of going into your closet to pray. He emphasized the kingdom of God being within you. He challenged the religious authorities of his time for creating barriers between people and God. Yet churches built in his name have often recreated those exact barriers, just with different names and different faces. This creates what we might call spiritual claustrophobia. The more you evolve, the more suffocating these structures become. And unlike physical discomfort, you can't simply ignore it. Your consciousness won't allow you to pretend everything is fine when you can clearly perceive the misalignment. You might feel guilt about this discomfort. Maybe I'm not spiritual enough. Maybe I'm being disrespectful. Maybe I should try harder to fit in. But here's the truth. Your resistance is wisdom. Your discomfort is clarity. The material illusion versus spiritual reality. One of the most jarring contradictions awakened individuals encounter is the gap between spiritual teaching and material practice within religious institutions. Scripture itself is abundantly clear on this matter. We're reminded repeatedly that we cannot serve two masters, that the pursuit of material wealth and genuine spiritual development are fundamentally incompatible paths. Yet walk into many contemporary religious spaces and you'll encounter the opposite reality. Temples of striking grandeur, leadership that displays wealth openly, and an almost obsessive focus on financial contributions. The contrast is often stunning. You hear sermons about detachment from worldly possessions while sitting in a sanctuary designed to impress with expensive finishes. You hear calls to humility from leaders wearing designer clothing. You hear appeals for donations while temples expand their real estate portfolios. Now here's an important distinction. Supporting spiritual communities financially is not inherently wrong. Generosity is a virtue. Communities need resources to operate. But there's a qualitative difference between a community pooling resources to sustain a shared space for genuine spiritual practice, with transparency about where money goes, a system where individual spiritual value is measured by donation amounts, where those who give more receive more attention, more blessings, more access, a hierarchy where material comfort for leaders becomes the priority, where spiritual growth for the community takes a back seat to institutional expansion. Leadership that demands sacrifice from followers while exempting themselves from those same demands. The chosen perceive this distinction with clarity, and more importantly, they recognize that this emphasis on material accumulation contradicts the actual spiritual evolution they're experiencing. As you awaken spiritually, something shifts in your consciousness. Material possessions that once seemed essential suddenly feel hollow. Status that once motivated you now appears as distraction. The pursuit of wealth that once felt like security now feels like chains. Your values literally restructure themselves. You start perceiving how the system that once seemed normal now appears as fundamentally misaligned with spiritual truth. You realize that many people remain trapped in this system not because it serves them spiritually, but because they haven't yet recognized the contradiction. This creates a fundamental incompatibility. How can you be part of a structure that's pulling you in the opposite direction of where your soul is moving? How can you listen to teachings about detachment while the institution itself embodies attachment? How can you experience genuine spiritual growth in a space that requires you to deny what you're clearly perceiving? The cognitive dissonance becomes unbearable, and the only resolution is to step away. The signs. How to recognize you're spiritually awakening. Before we continue exploring why the chosen distance themselves from institutions, it's important to understand what awakening actually looks like. How do you know if you're experiencing genuine spiritual evolution, or if you're simply being difficult and critical? There are unmistakable markers of spiritual awakening. Understanding them can help you distinguish between ego-driven judgment and authentic spiritual discernment. First, there's the shift in what matters to you. Things that used to occupy your mind, career advancement, material accumulation, social status, begin losing their gravitational pull. You find yourself drawn toward questions of meaning, purpose, authenticity. You start valuing experiences over possessions, depth over appearance, truth over comfort. This isn't depression or loss of ambition. It's a genuine restructuring of your value system. You still care about practical necessities, but they no longer define your sense of self-worth or fulfillment. Second, you develop heightened sensitivity to inauthenticity. You become acutely aware when someone's words don't match their actions. You notice when energy feels off in a space. You perceive the difference between genuine compassion and performative kindness. This sensitivity can feel like a curse because it means you can't simply accept surface-level explanations anymore. But it's actually a gift. It's your intuition becoming more refined, your spiritual perception sharpening. Third, you experience moments of profound clarity or connection. These might come during meditation, in nature, or unexpectedly during ordinary moments. Suddenly you feel directly connected to something larger than yourself. The veil between the material and spiritual feels thin. You perceive the interconnectedness of all things. These moments are transformative. They show you that direct communion with the divine is possible, that you don't need intermediaries or institutions to access it. Once you've experienced this direct connection, going back to institutional religion often feels empty by comparison. Fourth, you begin questioning everything you were taught. This isn't doubt, it's inquiry. You're not rejecting faith, but examining it. Is this actually true? Do I believe this because I've genuinely tested it against reality, or because I was taught to believe it? This questioning can create tension with those still embedded in institutional religion. They may interpret your inquiry as disrespect or spiritual weakness, but it's actually a sign of maturation. Blind faith is childhood spirituality. Examined faith is adult spirituality. Fifth, you experience increasing solitude in spiritual spaces. You sit in worship surrounded by people, but feel fundamentally alone. The prayers being recited don't resonate with your soul. The teachings don't address the questions that matter to you. The community feels less like a gathering of seekers and more like a performance you're expected to participate in. This solitude is significant. It's your soul signaling that this space is no longer serving your growth. Sixth, you develop an inner knowing that transcends logic. You know things without being able to explain how you know them. You sense things about people or situations that later prove true. You have intuitive hits that guide you toward what serves you and away from what doesn't. This inner knowing becomes increasingly reliable as you develop it. It's not mystical. It's the development of your spiritual perception, your ability to sense energy and truth beyond the rational mind. Finally, you experience what might be called spiritual restlessness. You can't settle. You can't pretend anymore. You can't go back to sleep, even when sleep would be more comfortable. Your soul is demanding authenticity, demanding growth, demanding that you align your external life with your internal truth. This restlessness is often misunderstood as dissatisfaction or instability, but it's actually integrity. It's your soul refusing to tolerate the gap between who you are and how you're living. If several of these markers resonate with you, you're likely in the midst of spiritual awakening. This is both exciting and challenging. It explains why institutional religion may feel increasingly uncomfortable. You're evolving faster than the structures around you can accommodate. The awakening, a solitary path that isn't actually solitary. Here's what many spiritual seekers don't anticipate. The moment you begin questioning institutional religion isn't the moment you lose faith. It's often the moment authentic faith begins. When you step away from prescribed spiritual practices and required rituals, something unexpected happens. You're forced to develop a genuine relationship with the divine based on authentic seeking rather than habitual obedience. This is where real spiritual development accelerates. Many who experience this awakening describe it as lonely initially. You're no longer part of the familiar community structure. You can't participate in the conversations that once united you with others. You're forging a path that doesn't have clear markers or established guidelines. There's no institution telling you what to believe, but that freedom also means you can't hide behind institutional answers anymore. You might face resistance from those still embedded in organized religion. They may see your departure as spiritual weakness or even as betrayal. How can you turn your back on the faith? They ask, unable to grasp that you're not turning your back on faith, but stepping into a deeper expression of it. And this is exactly why community matters. If you're in this space right now, know that you're not actually alone. Here on Soul's Path, we're building something different, a space where awakened souls can share this journey without judgment, without prescribed answers. Whether you've already subscribed or you're still exploring, I encourage you to join us. Become part of a community that understands what it means to question, to seek authenticity, to trust your spiritual intuition. The conversations happening in our comments, the stories being shared, they're changing lives. But here's the profound paradox. In this apparent isolation, you actually find deeper connection. Without the noise of institutional expectations, you begin hearing something clearer, a voice that's been present all along, but masked by external directions. Prayer becomes something different. It's no longer a recitation of prescribed words or formal liturgy. It becomes genuine dialogue, messy, authentic, sometimes uncertain, but absolutely real. You might sit in silence and simply pour out what's in your heart without worrying about whether you're doing it correctly. And you discover that this authenticity creates a connection far more profound than any structured prayer ever did. Meditation shifts from being a practice you're told to do into a necessity your soul demands. You discover that silence isn't emptiness, it's fullness. It's the space where your consciousness directly meets something greater than itself. In these moments, you experience communion that no institution could provide. Your spiritual life becomes deeply personal. What resonates with one awakened soul might not resonate with another, and you come to celebrate this diversity rather than seeing it as a problem. You understand that spirituality isn't one size fits all. Building your personal spiritual architecture. One of the most liberating aspects of moving beyond institutional spirituality is the freedom to construct your own spiritual practice, one that actually serves your soul's needs rather than institutional requirements. This doesn't mean creating a haphazard approach without depth. Rather, it means becoming intentional about what serves your genuine spiritual evolution versus what's merely tradition or obligation. Consider the elements that resonate with you. Some souls find profound connection through time in nature, sitting beneath trees, walking by water, observing the cycles of seasons. There's something about encountering the sacred directly in creation that bypasses the need for intermediaries. The divine speaks through wind, through birdsong, through the growth of plants and the movement of clouds. Others discover their spiritual practice through creative expression. Art, music, writing, dance, these become forms of communion. Your creativity isn't separate from your spirituality, it's an expression of it. When you create authentically, you're touching something divine. Service to others becomes spiritual practice for many awakened souls. Helping without expecting recognition, serving those society overlooks, offering compassion without condition, these become your prayers. You realize that spirituality isn't something to be practiced in isolation, but lived through how you treat others. Some are drawn to study, of sacred texts, of spiritual philosophy, of the wisdom traditions. Your mind becomes an instrument of spiritual exploration. You discover that understanding can deepen your faith rather than diminish it. Others find their path through practices like yoga, breathwork, or tai chi, where body and spirit integrate, where you experience the divine through the sensations of being embodied. The key shift is moving from passive reception, a leader tells you what to believe, to active participation. You discover what feels authentically true to your soul. This requires courage, because it means taking responsibility for your own spiritual journey. You can no longer blame an institution if your practice doesn't serve you. But this responsibility is also profoundly empowering. You become the architect of your own spiritual home. As you build this architecture, you'll notice something. Your practice becomes more consistent not because it's required, but because it genuinely fulfills you. You're drawn to it naturally because it serves your soul. Daily practices for direct connection with the divine. Now let's explore concrete practices that awakened souls use to maintain and deepen their direct connection with the divine. These aren't practices you're obligated to do. They're tools you use because they work, because they generate real results in your spiritual life. Intentional prayer practice. Prayer, in its truest form, is conversation, not recitation, not performance, genuine dialogue with the divine. Begin by creating a dedicated space and time, even 15 minutes daily. This consistency matters not because God requires it, but because you're creating a container for genuine communion. Sit comfortably, breathe, then speak. Don't worry about eloquence or correctness. Say what's actually in your heart. I'm confused about my path. I'm grateful for this moment. I need guidance. I'm angry about this situation. Authenticity matters far more than eloquence. The crucial part comes next. Listen. After you've shared, sit in silence. Notice what arises. It might be a knowing, an image, a memory, an insight. It might be simple peace. Don't judge it or try to force it. Simply receive. Many awakened souls report that their most profound spiritual guidance comes not during the speaking part, but during the listening part. This is where you encounter the divine in a direct way. Meditation, the practice of deep listening. Meditation is how you develop the capacity to hear the subtle voice of spirit. It trains your consciousness to move beyond the noise of thought and emotion into deeper dimensions of awareness. You don't need to meditate for hours. Even 10 to 20 minutes daily is transformative. Find a comfortable position. Close your eyes. Begin focusing on your breath, not controlling it, simply observing it. When your mind wanders, and it will, gently return your attention to your breath. This isn't failure, this is the practice. As you continue, you may notice a deepening sense of peace, the arising of intuitive knowing, a feeling of connection to something larger, clarity about situations that were confusing, release of emotional tension, spontaneous insights about your life. These experiences aren't the goal of meditation. The goal is simply to sit and be present. But these experiences often naturally arise as you develop your practice. Some awakened souls use guided meditations focused on specific intentions. Others sit in silence. Some use mantras or affirmations. Experiment and notice what genuinely opens your consciousness. Communion with nature. Nature is one of the most direct channels to the divine. When you spend time in natural settings with awareness, you're literally touching the sacred. This might be a daily walk in a park, time by a body of water, gardening, or simply sitting under a tree. The key is presence. Rather than walking while lost in thought, walk with attention. Notice the details. Feel the air. Observe the life around you. Many awakened souls report that their most profound spiritual experiences happen in nature. There's something about being in creation that makes the presence of the Creator undeniable. In nature, you remember that you're part of something vast and beautiful. Journaling for spiritual clarity. Writing is a powerful tool for spiritual exploration. When you write freely about your inner experience, you access insights that remain hidden when you simply think. Set aside time weekly or even daily. Write without censoring yourself. Explore your questions, your confusion, your insights. Write about your spiritual journey. Write prayers. Write what you're learning. Many find that as they write, answers emerge. It's as if the act of articulating brings clarity. Your intuition expresses itself through your written words, acts of service and compassion. Spirituality isn't something practiced only in meditation or prayer. It's lived through how you interact with others. Begin noticing opportunities to serve. Help someone without expecting recognition. Offer compassion without condition. Listen to someone with full presence. Perform small acts of kindness with genuine care. These become spiritual practices because they align your actions with your values. They integrate your spirituality into your daily life. Gratitude practice. Gratitude fundamentally shifts your consciousness. It opens you to perceive the abundance and grace already present in your life. Each day, identify things you're genuinely grateful for, not in a surface way, but with real feeling. Notice how gratitude changes your perspective. When you lead with gratitude, you perceive life differently. You see blessings that worry usually obscures. The key is authentic gratitude. You're not forcing positivity or denying difficulty. You're simply choosing to notice what's working, what's beautiful, what's a gift. Study and reflection. For many awakened souls, study becomes spiritual practice. Reading sacred texts, exploring spiritual philosophy, learning from wisdom traditions, these deepen understanding and faith. The difference from institutional learning is that you're exploring freely, questioning freely, taking what serves you and leaving what doesn't. You're not being told what to believe, but developing your own understanding. These practices work because they create direct channels between your consciousness and the divine. They don't require institutional intermediaries. They don't cost money. They're available to everyone right now. What's important is consistency. Their daily practice, even brief, transforms your spiritual life far more than occasional intense efforts. You're building a relationship with the divine the same way you build any relationship, through showing up regularly, through genuine engagement, through patience and presence. As you develop these practices, you'll notice your life changing. Your perception sharpens, your intuition strengthens, your peace deepens. You experience directly what institutions only claim to offer, the unexpected gift, spiritual maturity. As you progress through this transition, something remarkable emerges. You develop a spiritual maturity that institutional religion often doesn't cultivate. When you're following prescribed beliefs, you're in a state of spiritual childhood. Someone else is doing the thinking for you. Authority figures tell you what's true, and your job is to obey and believe. This has a certain comfort. You're not responsible for your own spiritual understanding. You can hide behind the institution. But when you step into direct relationship with the divine, you're forced to develop genuine wisdom. You must discern truth for yourself. You must test what you believe against your actual lived experience. You must take responsibility for your spiritual journey. This creates adults of faith rather than children of obligation. You begin to understand faith not as certainty, but as trust. Not as having all answers, but as embracing the mystery while remaining committed to spiritual growth. You recognize that doubt can be part of faith rather than its opposite. A mature faith says, I don't have all the answers, but I trust the divine's guidance. I don't understand everything, but I'm willing to learn and grow. I recognize that my understanding is limited, but I'm committed to deepening it. This is radically different from institutional faith, which often demands certainty and obedience without question. You also develop what might be called spiritual humility. You realize that your understanding of the divine is necessarily limited by your human consciousness. You recognize that other people's spiritual experiences might look different from yours, and this diversity of expression is actually beautiful rather than threatening. You stop believing that your way is the only way. You celebrate that there are many paths up the mountain, and they might all reach the summit. You become less interested in proving others wrong and more interested in discovering truth. You hold your beliefs more lightly, remaining open to growth and revision as you evolve. You develop compassion for those still embedded in institutional structures, understanding that they're where they are in their journey, and that's okay. You stop judging them and start seeing them with love. This is a maturity that many lifelong institutional members never develop, because the structure discourages these kinds of independent insights. The institution needs you to remain dependent, to keep believing without questioning, to maintain your faith in its authority. But the spiritually mature person doesn't depend on institutions. They depend on their direct relationship with the divine, and paradoxically, this makes them stronger, more peaceful, and more genuinely faithful. When your evolution becomes a mirror for others, here's something that catches many awakened souls off guard. As you transform, people around you begin changing too, whether they want to or not. Your peace becomes visible, your freedom becomes inspiring, your willingness to question becomes permission for others to question. Simply by living your authentic spiritual truth, you're unconsciously challenging everyone's assumptions about how spirituality must look. Some people will celebrate this. They'll recognize your transformation and begin exploring their own path. But others will resist fiercely. The resistance often comes from those who are still embedded in the structures you've left. Your very existence becomes a question mark next to their choices. This is uncomfortable for them. If you can leave institutional religion and still be spiritual, actually become more spiritually mature, then what does that mean for their choice to stay? What does it mean for the time and energy they've invested? What does it mean for the beliefs that have structured their entire life? So they may attack you. They may question your motives. They may warn others about you. They may suggest that you've been deceived or that you're spiritually lost. These reactions aren't really about you. They're about their own cognitive dissonance. And this is often when the chosen experience their deepest loneliness. The people you thought would understand you reject you. The community you thought would support you turns critical. You're labeled as dangerous or misguided simply for following your own spiritual truth. But here's the profound truth. This is also when you discover your actual spiritual power. You realize that your journey isn't dependent on others' approval. Your faith isn't diminished by their judgment. Your growth doesn't require their support. You learn to stand alone if necessary, rooted in your connection with the divine. This is different from being lonely. You can be solitary and not lonely because you're never actually alone. You're always in communion with something greater. This is also when you begin to understand your role. By honoring your own authentic path, you're giving others permission to honor theirs. By refusing to pretend, you're making it safer for others to be honest. By living according to your truth despite resistance, you're showing others that it's possible. This is the chosen's quiet revolution. It's not about convincing others to believe what you believe. It's about modeling what authentic spiritual living actually looks like. Sometimes, years later, someone who initially rejected you will come back and say, "I remember how you lived. I remember your peace despite the criticism. And I finally understand. Thank you for not giving up on your truth." This is the harvest of spiritual authenticity. It takes time, but it's real. The integration, moving forward without losing. What matters many who transition away from institutional religion worry they'll lose something important. Community, tradition, moral grounding, connection to something larger than themselves. These are valid concerns. Community is important. Tradition can be meaningful. Moral grounding matters. Connection to the sacred is essential. The integration challenge is real. How do you maintain these things while leaving the structures that once held them? Some awakened souls find community with others on similar paths, whether through online communities, small spiritual groups, or simply through Soul's Path. They discover that spiritual community doesn't require institutional religion. It happens naturally among those seeking authentically. Others discover that their relationships deepen naturally as they become more authentic. When you're no longer performing or hiding, people sense that. Your genuine presence creates space for their genuine presence. Intimacy deepens. Some create new rituals that serve their spiritual needs. Maybe they gather with friends for meaningful conversation about spiritual topics. Maybe they create family traditions that honor the sacred without institutional religion. Maybe they develop personal rituals that mark important transitions and moments. Others find that their commitment to service and compassion, values institutional religion claimed to teach, actually develop more genuinely when they're self-directed rather than obligated. You help because your heart calls you to help, not because you're fulfilling an obligation or earning spiritual points. The moral grounding? You discover that your values are actually clarified rather than compromised by this process. When you're living according to authentic conviction rather than external requirement, your ethics become stronger, not weaker. You're not avoiding harm because you fear punishment from God or judgment from the institution. You're avoiding harm because you genuinely value the well-being of others. You're living ethically because it's who you are, not because you're being policed. Many discover that their actual values, compassion, integrity, service, honesty, courage, are not only preserved, but deepened by this transition. The key to healthy integration is not to abandon everything from your previous spiritual experience. It's to discern what genuinely serves your soul and what was merely institutional habit. Some traditions are beautiful and meaningful. Some practices genuinely open you to the divine. Some teachings contain profound wisdom. You're not rejecting spirituality. You're clarifying it. You're removing the debris so you can see the true spiritual foundation beneath. The invitation forward. If you're in that space of questioning, of feeling spiritually restless within institutions that once felt safe, know this: your discomfort is not your enemy. It's your awakening. The chosen are called to a particular kind of spiritual maturity, one that's independent, authentic, and deeply personal. You're learning to trust your own spiritual perception. You're developing a direct relationship with the divine that doesn't depend on intermediaries. This path isn't easier than institutional religion. In many ways, it's harder because you can't outsource your spiritual responsibility. You can't hide behind the institution's authority. You must take ownership of your own journey. But it's also incomparably more real. When you experience the divine directly, when you develop practices that genuinely transform your consciousness, when you live according to your authentic truth, nothing compares to that. If you're walking this path, Soul's Path exists as a space for reflection on what it means to live spiritually awake in a world that often resists awakening. We explore the questions that matter, the challenges that arise, and the profound freedom that comes with authentic spiritual seeking. Subscribe to join a community of conscious souls navigating this journey. Turn on notifications so you don't miss conversations that speak to your spiritual evolution. And I'm genuinely inviting you, share your own insights in the comments. What part of this video shifted something in you? What question does it raise for you? Have you experienced your own spiritual awakening? How has it changed you? This community is built on genuine exchange, not prescribed answers. Your voice belongs here. In your spiritual journey, remember, you're not broken for questioning. You're not weak for leaving institutional structures. You're not alone in this awakening. Across the world, countless souls are simultaneously recognizing that authentic spirituality transcends any human-created system. Trust your inner knowing, honor your spiritual sensitivity. Move toward what feels genuinely true to your soul. Develop practices that connect you directly with the divine. And remember that your evolution is not just personal, it's a gift to everyone around you. That is the path of the truly chosen. We'll explore more of these truths together in the next video. Until then, may your inner light guide you toward authentic spiritual communion.